Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I'm the Environmental Justice Communications Coordinator here at the Urban Forestry Program with Little Manila Rising. I'm only one part of the team, so please give me a chance to just introduce the team real quick, and then we'll get started.
Yeah. So, hi, everybody. Brianna Garcia. I am the Environmental Justice Communications Manager for the Urban Forestry Program at Little Manila Rising.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicholas Tamayo. I'm the Urban Forestry Director at Little Manila Rising.
Orlando, Community Forester.
Perfect. So if you didn't know, our offices are located off San Joaquin Street, right by McKinley Park. So we're located in South Stockton. And if you're from the area, you know there's some drastic differences between North Side and South Side, but we particularly focus on the environmental aspect of things. Let's see. Our program is dedicated to providing workforce development. We provide free trees, and we provide just general maintenance support for trees around the area to support the air quality in South Stockton. But one thing we've encountered in our outreach work is a lot of negative feelings about trees, unfortunately. We say when we're pitching to potential My Free Tree stewards, we say My Free Tree, and they're still seeing that as a nuisance, and understandably so considering the history of Stockton trees. But we've noticed there's a common theme of what we coin as tree trauma. Tree trauma is, we define it as the fear of trees due to asthma, allergies, property damage, lack of investment, and just lack of maintenance, and just a general miseducation about trees. So what our program is trying to do is to solve that issue is just really provide some expertise. We have some My Free Tree programs. We have we have a lot of opportunities basically to build trust between our communities, so we can give them the expertise that we have and the resources that we have available so they can be confident in growing our future. But it's kind of hard to do that without understanding the background of how there's been so much mistrust between communities and trees and stuff, and so we'll get into that first with Nico.
Thank you. So I'm going to go over the history of trees here in Stockton, and we're going to start in the 1930s. How many of you have heard of the term redlining? Everybody. Sweet. So I'm not going to go too in detail. I'm just going to, just roughly in the 1930s, to get out of the Great Depression, the federal government established the Homeowners Loan Corporation and sent out a bunch of surveyors into all of the major cities in the country to figure out what parts of the cities were worth investing in, to award loans for homeowners to buy property, for businesses to buy commercial real estate and warehouses, and they did these along ethnic and racial lines. That's what the desirability of certain neighborhoods was mainly based on. And so if you look at the map here, which was hand drawn, and I'm a big map person, so I think it's like beautiful visually, and yet it's horrible with the true history of it. But the term redlining came from the designation of these certain neighborhoods as, red or undesirable. And they were considered undesirable because they were undeveloped already, and the people who lived in them were, farm laborers from Mexico and mainly Mexico, the Philippines. There were large African American communities and really poor white communities. On a local level, what that impacted was like the investment in the infrastructure in different parts of the city. And so if you walk through South Stockton, you're in a lot of places walking on 100-year-old sidewalks that were built at this time. There's no ADA compliance ramps. There's tree wells that are, that wide. If you all have seen trees, what tree can fit there? And so what we see now, and it's playing out in local media, are trees that are coming down that were planted around that time. They were planted in strips that were too small for how they would grow into maturity. They're busting sidewalks, which are a risk and a tripping hazard, a liability for a city. And then they're aging, so we have an older urban forest canopy. And that requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of investment. And so trees are coming down. Trees die. They have a lifespan. Especially urban trees have shorter lifespans. And so we have a lot of standing dead trees which are a huge risk now that we're getting these stronger windstorms, that'll fall on somebody's home or someone sleeping under it. They're also unpleasant to look at. We have stumps of trees that were cut down maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, and the stump is still there. You know, these things leave an impact on our community. When they see things like this, it shows that we don't value their homes, we don't value their environment, and that leads to distrust, it leads to feelings of neglect, and all of those, you know, compound when we go out and try to make our, you know, our offerings to the community. Hey, do you want a tree? And they say, well, like, what about that stump? You know, we planted that tree 30, 40 years ago, and then the city cut it down, and we don't want to deal with it. You know, that is trauma. That is, you know, that is pain. That's generational pain. And so, you know, we realized very quickly that we weren't just an urban forestry group. We had to, you know, maybe nuance the way that we were approaching our community, and not just be offering this service without being mindful of how people actually relate to their lived environment. But we do have solutions, so I'm going to pass it to Orlando.
So my position is a community forester, and it holds a strong promise to the community. Our promise is to plant trees in neighborhoods and areas, primarily on the south side of Stockton, where the air quality is at its worst and the tree canopy is at its lowest. Do any of you guys know what a tree canopy is? It's basically like the shade you get from trees, and it helps reduce the high heat levels, and also cleanses the air and changes the biodiversity around you. A place with no vegetation and only pavement and bare soil is a horrible place to surround yourself in, which is why planting trees is so important. And there's many benefits, like mental health. Trees can help reduce stress levels, lower blood pressure, improve your mood. It can also help with anxiety, depression, anger, confusion, and fatigue. Another good benefit is the physical health, and they can improve your respiratory health by absorbing all the air pollutants from ozone toxins, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide. And lastly, we have urban environment benefits. When trees eliminate the heat island effect by shading homes and streets, that's what the tree canopy is. Releasing water vapor into the air and cooling that area down, lowering the temperature by 10 degrees. And also reducing the UV exposure by 50%. A common fear that some people have is that all trees cause their allergies to act up, but the truth is that majority of those trees are male trees. And to resolve this problem and planting the wrong tree in the wrong place, me and my team have been doing like new research recently on selecting the correct tree for the right place that's also hypoallergenic for people suffering with asthma and allergies who want a tree but can't because some other trees, or they might have a fear of trees will act up on their allergies. Next, we're going to be talking about the process and how you can trust our promise to the community.
Yeah, so thank you, Orlando, for sharing some of those benefits. So how do we get from tree trauma to hopefully tree trust? Because tree trauma is something that is unfortunately not unique to South Stockton. This happens in a lot of different places that also have been redlined, unfortunately. And even some community members have protested against, organized and protested against that have a tree effort. And so very early on, we did not want people to protest our efforts. And so, like Nico alluded to earlier, we needed to become a program that was centered not just trees, but also the people. And so we had to put ourselves in positions to understand and really meet people where they're at. And so our I think process of being able to shape the opinions of some community members is to build trust. And the way that we have been building trust is by building a team of experts who have the knowledge, like Orlando as a community forester, have this like technical knowledge, but can translate it so that it could be accessed in many different ways and to many different people, and to also have a consistent presence within the community. Like Nico had mentioned, like Nico had mentioned, you know, people have seen or they feel the neglect and the disinvestment, and so being a consistent presence will help that. And we have already seen people starting to like recognize us and like, oh hey, like you know, the tree needs a stake. Like people will help us, and that's what we ultimately want to build, is a culture of care in the community. And yeah, we're hoping that it's not something that like we only do, but that everybody in the community plays a hand in helping us care for the trees in our neighborhoods. And you don't just have to believe what I'm saying, even though I am a trustworthy source. I'm going to share it, or I'm going to turn it over to Nico again to share some of our milestones.
Yeah, thank you. So we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 3 years. We're really a young program. We started out in 2021, and we've trained 22 individuals through our training program. It's a 15-week paid urban community forestry training program that incorporates classroom lessons and on-the-job experience. Our program is largely taken from the ISA, which is the International Society of Arborists Society. No, it's International Society of Arborists. Their arborist exam curriculum, their study guide. So what's really cool about our program is we have a lot of young folks in the work. So I'm a young urban forester. I'm studying for my arborist exam, and Orlando's just getting into arboriculture. And we get to learn these concepts while teaching other folks. At the same time, we do community planting events. So we plant on city right-of-way. So we planted 333 trees so far. And we planted on city parks. We planted on city park strips. Like, you know, if you see the space between the sidewalk and the street, that's city land. So we plant trees on those land. We pick the right species for that space and the right size of tree so that we don't end up with this situation again. And we've also planted 66 trees through our My Free Tree program, where we go out and survey block by block, house by house, all of the plantable locations in our community. We map it we put a point on a map, and then we do outreach to that household. So when we go out and say, hey, we're gonna plant this tree on your property, and we do it, we don't just cut and run and never see you again. We actually promise and commit to 3 years of no cost support to establish that tree. So we come out and water it. We do structural prunings. We teach that household care and water their tree. And we do that for 3 years. So that's about the time that a tree takes to really set its roots and be healthy. Hosted 26 outreach events. That includes public planting events at parks. Through our training program, we've graduated 22 folks, and we've supported their employment with companies such as West Coast Arborists, which is the largest arborist company and tree service company in the state of California. We've also supported the employment of graduates into the Caltrans Landscape Division up in Sacramento, and then we've also helped folks get in with Greater Valley Conservation Corps. Additionally, we've also started to employ folks ourselves. And so we can't just do it with volunteer work. Like, we have a city to serve. And so we started employing and building our own team, buying trucks, buying equipment, so that we can actually meet the needs of our community. We hope that you'll participate and join our efforts, whether that's like coming out to public planting events or workshops, or even enrolling in our training program and pursuing a career with us. So thank you.
we encourage you all to join our mailing list. That's the best place to get more information about what we're doing. Our first tree forum will be hosted September 14th. If you guys are interested for that, save the date. But we're welcoming any questions for now if you guys have any.
I do have a question about the training program. Is this an open entry or do you guys do cohorts?
Hey, we do cohorts, and we primarily work with 5 Keys schools and programs because it's we focused on working with formerly incarcerated adults, but we've also enrolled local youth and really anybody who's interested. And so we'll be doing recruitment for our first 2 cohorts, which are October 1st to January 10th, and then the second cohort of the year is February 1st to May 10th. So we'll be recruiting for both of those cohorts this summer. Yeah, and you just have to be 18 and up.
Thank you.
Do you do any work with like vegetative buffers? So there's like the taller trees with the canopy, but then if we're looking at, you know, sort of near source air pollution mitigation, some of these denser, shorter trees might be more effective. Have you done any of that work?
We haven't done it yet, but we have we have a proposal in review right now with Valley Air District to begin doing vegetated barrier plantings. And so yeah, we like recognize that our South Stockton in particular is surrounded by pollution sources such as the port and all of our major highways. And there are a lot of houses in South Stockton that don't even have sound walls. And so we're hoping to work with a technical advisor from Berkeley who's done a lot of barrier plantings. And if you all don't know, barrier plantings are like, instead of single trees, you're planting like a long line of trees that are usually like evergreen, so they are green year round, and conifer, so like cypress trees and cedar trees, you know, that have the needles, because those actually trap more pollution and like particulate matter. And so you plant those closer together and it creates a wall, so when the pollution comes off the freeway, it filters through those trees. And so we're hoping to get into that work in the next year.
Who's your contact at Berkeley that you're working with?
It's not UC Berkeley. It's a lab called Hyphy Design Lab.
Okay, yeah, they're helping out on a STEP project.
In that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah.
Great partners.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to express my appreciation for this project. I think this is amazing. You guys did a great job. And I also I should say I'm from public health, Caitlin Pierce, public health. I really appreciate the connection between redlining and historic disinvestment in the communities. I think more and more we're hearing in the news media and in research about the historic disinvestment and the long-term effects of like the lack of biodiversity and just true, you know, environmental exposure and things like that. So I really appreciated that introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I wish you guys have a great day.